shown you the correspondence between an integer with n digits and a polynomial with n coefficients. I will not go into that, but just a mention of that the procedure is exactly same idea, exactly same. Okay, so treat the polynomial as an integer consisting of n digits and just do exactly the same thing. Break it up into two halves, n by 2, the left half, right half, etc., etc. So the only thing is we need the result that we can multiply two polynomials in time n to the power 1 plus epsilon strictly less than 2, right? That recurrence of Tn is equal to 3 times Tn by 2 plus n will give us something which is strictly less than n to the power 2. Okay, so now it's going to go easier. All of you are already familiar with these things. So just a mention, maybe I'll finish off this session quickly because you are already comfortable and familiar with these things. So again, iterative algorithm for searching. Linear search. What do you do in the ith iteration? If you are talking about an iterative algorithm, you have to say what happens in the ith iteration. So, that's how you should talk about these algorithms. Just not write the code and say this is this. Just say that in the ith iteration, you compare the key to be searched with the ith element. If you are successful, then report. Otherwise, you move to the next iteration. That's how you should talk about iterative. I mean, I'm laying emphasis on this again and again, right? Why I'm laying emphasis on these things? I want that, or we want that the algorithm be taught independent of programming world. The algorithms existed even before computers came into existence. Right? People used to sort even before computers came into existence. Right? So people used to use algorithms. Right? So they did all this sequential thing. They did divide and conquer. Right? So we want to talk about these algorithms independent of the programming concepts. Just don't say that for I is equal to, so if somebody asks you what is a sequential search, don't say that for I is equal to 1 to n, xi is compared with the key. No. Just say that in the ith iteration, key is compared with the ith element and so on. Right? So what is the, how do you analyze sequential search? Sorry, what is the first line? I lay a lot of emphasis in this.
Is not found in the at the ith iteration. We are taking constant amount of time, and here are n such iterations.
Exactly. Exactly. In the ith iteration, we are doing constant amount of time. We are spending constant amount of time, and there are n iterations. So that constant is added n times, and you get order n. Okay. Divide and conquer. Binary search. So this is absolutely same as what we did earlier. We can implement it. I'm repeating same thing. We can repeat binary search using as iterative algorithm or as recursion. We have seen the advantages and disadvantages of using recursion vis-a-vis iterative algorithms. Okay. In absolute terms, if you see, then iterative algorithms are faster than their recursive counterparts. Okay. The sorting problem, given n elements, you want to arrange them in some particular order. N elements are drawn from a set where you can compare two elements. You can say xi is less than or equal to xj and so on. So you want to arrange them in, let's say, increasing order. Now iterative algorithms. Insertion sort. One sec. Insertion sort. What do you do in the ith iteration?
Place ith element
Others? Yeah. What do we do in the ith iteration?
pick up the element and compare it with all elements that are and find out its correct position.
Okay. Okay. So, yeah, okay. So, I will say in the ith iteration, yeah, some people said that in the ith iteration we insert the ith element into the partially sorted list before the ith element. I don't need to talk about for I is equal to 1 to n, etc., etc. Okay, but okay, for I is equal to 1 to n, insert the ith element in the partially sorted list, partially sorted list before it. That's insertion sort is only about this. Now it doesn't say how do you do this. That's your headache. You find out how do you want to do this, right? So at all point of time, this is assumed to be sorted, and this is true in the beginning. We do it from I is equal to 2 to n. For I is equal to 2, I have only one element before that which is sorted by default. So, and after that we are maintaining this, that it will be sorted. Now, how do I insert this at a proper location? We can have different ways of doing it. We can have different ways of doing it. All of you are familiar with this in arrays. Can you think of doing this in linked list?
Yes.
How?
You have to delete the row from insert, go back, the row should start from the beginning, and the location and insert.
Exactly, right. So when you are doing it in an array, generally we start from looking for that element like this, compare it with xi minus 1, etc., etc., and because you keep on shifting, so it's easier. But if we are doing it in a linked list, we will compare from the beginning so that we know that a pointer to the node after which we have to insert. Fine? So insertion sort doesn't tell how to insert. Insertion sort just says insert, and hence the name insertion. Can you tell me any other way of doing this insertion? Some other? Okay, before going to that, let me just ask you, time in, let's say, arrays. How much time in arrays? Correct yourself slightly.
At each step, at most,
In the ith iteration,
in the ith iteration, there should be at most I minus 1 elements.
exactly. If you start your analysis with in the ith iteration, you will do the correct analysis. Okay? In the ith step or in the ith iteration, you are doing at most I minus 1 comparisons. Going like this, at most I minus 1 elements you will have to compare with, and so I going from 2 to n. You can solve this series, I am not going into that. Linked list? Linked list? Again, linked list is iterative. In the ith step, we are again doing I minus 1 comparisons in the worst case, because it is possible that you start comparing from here and you end up here. So the best case for arrays is the worst case for linked list, and the worst case for arrays is the best case for linked list. Okay, so you get the same thing, same. Any other method to insert? Any other method? Veda? Yeah, yeah. Since the list is already sorted, we can use binary search.
But again, shifting with the
That's yeah. So I'll come to that. Yeah, true. Okay. So if you use binary search, you'll have to do in arrays. So what is the time? Now I'll not use the word time. I'll use the number of comparisons. So I was assuming this so far I was assuming this, that it is the number of comparisons that dominates. If you look at insertion sort, arrays wala implementation. So there are two things that are happening. One is comparison and another is assignment. Yeah, you are shifting this here, this here. So this shifting I call move or assignment. How many moves here? At most I minus 1. So for every comparison you do one move plus minus 1 kind of a thing. So almost for every comparison you are doing one move. So I minus 1 comparisons in the worst case, I minus 1 moves in the worst case. So you got that. In linked list there is no move. You are just whenever you find the place you do as many comparisons, there is no move. Binary search. So let me do it for the number of comparisons. So in the previous case the number of comparisons was equal to the number of moves, but here they are kind of different, and let's see what is the number of comparisons. In the ith iteration we are doing how many? In the ith iteration we are doing log I comparisons. What is this? Have you seen this earlier? Have you seen this expression earlier? What is this? Log of, well, let's say 2, log 2 plus log 3 plus log n. Am I right? I could have straight away written n less than or equal to n log n, but I want this to imbibe that this is nothing but log of n factorial, which is less than or equal to n log n. So number of comparisons is n log n. But then why don't we use this version of insertion sort? We are always talking of arrays and this and that.
Binary search finds a number. In this case, we are trying to insert it. So we need a modification in binary search also so that we can find position. If binary search is being doing, we stop normally when we either find it or we in this is the reverse.
Not really. It can fail also, right? If it fails, then we can insert also. Binary search can be used to find the predecessor and successor also, right?
When it fails, then you have to check maybe as it is finding the position.
You can modify it slightly. You can, little bit of modification
The
maybe.
number of swaps don't get affected.
Huh?
The number of swapping I need to do to make position for my ith element. is not
Exactly.
affected. In the worst case, I may need to shift all.
Exactly.
One element.
Exactly. So in this case, it is also the number of, let's count the number of moves. Or shifts or moves, whatever you want to call it. In the ith iteration, in the worst case, how many moves we may have to do? I minus 1. So that's the reason. In any case, we have to spend time on this, which is, so we don't do this. We don't bother to do binary search for this. Okay. So the point that I want to lay emphasis on is that the algorithm says in the ith iteration, just insert the ith element into its correct position. It doesn't say how to insert that element. All these are forms of insertion sort. Okay. Selection sort. Selection sort. What happens in the ith position, ith iteration? Let others also. What happens in the selection sort? Ith iteration. Okay. Yeah, so in ith iteration, we select the ith minimum. See, if you notice that I am justifying the names. In my algorithm, I am justifying the names of the algorithm. I select the minimum, ith minimum, and swap it with the ith element there. How I do it is a different thing. But actually speaking, this algorithm should be implemented exactly this way. Not by shifting this. Okay? So, for I is equal to 1 to 2 to n, select minimum from I to n. Select minimum from I to n and swap it with xi.
In this case, first element is not considered at all.
Okay, so 1 to n minus 1. From I to n, ठीक है. Select minimum from I to n. Yeah, ठीक है. And swap it with the ith element. This is what is selection sort. Now, how do you do this? I leave it here. And you know how to do the analysis. I will just go over. Bubble sort. What happens in the ith iteration? Ith element?
Greater than I minus 1.
या मेरे को ith एलिमेंट की बात कुछ नहीं सुन रहा, जोर से बोलो थोड़ा. ith एलिमेंट एट द ith पोजीशन तो सेलेक्ट में भी सिलेक्शन में भी हो रहा है, इंसर्शन में भी हो रहा है.
If ith element is more than I minus 1 element, it becomes sort.
ith element bubbles up to its correct position.
Compared to consecutive elements, I think shifting towards there.
We are talking about how. I'm asking what?
ith slowly bubbles up at its correct position.
ith largest element will be at ith position, but n minus
Yeah, whatever. Why is it called bubble sort?
because we do the largest number of one kind of bubbles up.
Okay. All right. So, so somebody says bubbles down, somebody says bubbles up. That's okay. So the ith smallest element bubbles up to its correct position. So if you look at it, elements are like stored like this. Okay. So I know for sure that I don't know how, but after the first iteration, I know one is here. I don't know the relative order, etc., but I'm just putting it like this. I don't know. Algorithm could be doing anything else with the other elements. In the second iteration, 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 3. It's okay. We are saying bubbling up. You could say bubble down. Yeah. Okay. We can say bubble down. Okay. So hence the name bubble sort. So the only thing you have to say is what does it do in the ith iteration. The ith iteration, ith element bubbles up or bubbles down to its correct position. Talking about the algorithm like this also gives you a convincing feeling that at the end the data will be sorted. In the ith iteration, ith element is going to its correct position. So nth iteration, all the elements will be at their correct position. Right? Easy to argue. Okay. So this was about the iterative algorithms. Then there's nothing new to merge sort. It's just one technique, divide and conquer. You all of you are familiar with merge sort. There is nothing much for me to contribute there. So is there anybody who doesn't know about merge sort? Then I can do that. Okay. So divide the list into two and sort it recursively and then merge the two lists. Quick sort. So these two topics have been touched upon earlier also, right? Merge sort and quick sort. So these are the divide and conquer techniques. You pick up a pivot and partition around that in quick sort. You partition around that, elements less than the pivot go to the left, elements greater than the pivot go to the right, and sort them recursively and combine. So just one remark maybe I can give in merge sort. How much time do we spend in creating the two subproblems? Constant, no time. And how much time do we spend in combining the solutions? Order n time. We merge two arrays each of size n by 2 and the time to merge two sorted arrays of length m and n is m plus n minus 1. So combining time is order n. In quick sort, how much time do you spend in creating the subproblems? Order n. And how much time do we take to combine? Nothing, constant. So
Is there any technique to pick the pivot in this sort? Like sometimes we take from the middle, sometimes we take from the side.
yeah, but you have to pick it. Wherever you pick it from, I didn't comment on that, whether you pick a first element as a pivot, you pick the last element as a pivot, you pick the middle of the array. There is one thing is middle of the array, there is another thing is middle of the data. Middle of the data is median. right? So, okay, since you have raised this, let me just, so middle of the array is as good or bad as the first and the last. You could even pick the pivot as randomly, as Ragesh had mentioned. So, it would be very nice if we can guarantee that we always pick the middle of the data. What is it called? Median. If we knew the median, if we knew how to compute the median of the data, then I am always guaranteed that at every point of time I will split it into equal halves. Okay? And anybody knows how much time does it take to compute the median? Some nice. So how much time? You have a linear time algorithm for finding the n by 2 selection ith element. Is that randomized or you pick the pivot randomly? Median of the medians, yes. Median of the medians. No, median of the medians you can guarantee. You can do it in there is a sophisticated algorithm to compute the median in order n time. So that I am not doing. Those who are interested can refer to some old version of Corman. I think the recent version does not have. Third edition may have. Okay. Okay, it's there. Okay. So you can find the median in n time. Then it's easy, right? Okay. I think that's it. So this kind of a thing, like what I wanted to say on this slide, I have already said, but I can repeat that. So this is not about divide and conquer. It is again the same idea, and I want to lay emphasis on. Suppose we have n factorial. So I have seen that students have the tendency to write recursive algorithm to compute n factorial, because that's the way they learn, right? That's the way factorial is defined, for that matter. We define factorial as this only. The definition itself is recursive. So when a child, I mean, because I'm talking from the point of view of the student, when a child is given a problem to write an algorithm for factorial, those who are comfortable, the first thing that will come to their mind is write a recursive algorithm, right? And I think in class also the first example that we give for recursion is also this, and that's what they learn for whole of their life. So, but we should, at some point of time, we need to tell them that this was only to just to explain the recursion, like how it works and all that, but it should not be used. The recursive algorithm should not be used to compute n factorial. N factorial can be computed iteratively very easily. Efficient तो है ही है, easy भी है ना? Recursive algorithm हमें क्या दे रहे हैं? Just the ease. They are not adding efficiency. Remember, they are only giving you the ease, the comfort of doing everything. So for the problems which are as easy as this, you should not use recursion. Fibonacci numbers, same problem. The definition itself is recursive. Students end up writing a recursive function for this. When you start teaching DP to them, then they start realizing that there is a lot of overlap in the recursive calls, and that's it. So at some point of time, we need to tell the students that you should not use recursive or DP algorithms for computing the Fibonacci numbers. We can use DP if we want all the numbers up to n. But if you want just the nth number, then we should not use. And compute all and store all. If you just want to output, then also you don't need. Okay, which is generally not the case. You don't want to store all the Fibonacci numbers. You know. These are some simple examples. Finding maximum and maximum of n numbers, x1, x2, xn. These are some of the problems that I give to my students. And so how do you compute the maximum of this? So first, all of you know the recursive, the iterative algorithm for this, right? And similarly, some they are parallel. Just for practice, like the way we give for n factorial, we can give this thing for practice, only for practice, that find the maximum of n elements, write a recursive algorithm. How do you write a recursive algorithm? So we have time, I think we can do this. Or if you can try to write a recursive algorithm for this. That's my last slide. You can spend some time in doing this.
Firstly, we have to ask two parameters, if I'm not wrong. If I'm not wrong, when you write position and the max.
Okay, let me see. Let others also write. It's okay.
Max, like we assume first in the max one, and if this ith number is given the max, then we store the max and call again I plus from f plus 1 and then max, because we need a max to compute the maximum number.
So when you call, oops, sorry.
I will take it.
Sorry. So when you call, this is a call, huh?
Yes, ma'am.
How are you using its solution? Oh, just you basically are assuming that
Max.
it will return,
Max at end.
and I means what?
I is the position, like
No, so when you
Last-
call this, when you
last
call
item.
this,
Yes.
what does it do?
It will
It computes maximum from where to where?
like it is the ith position of max right now, current position. Now start from here for the rest of the time.
So it computes the maximum from this to
here,
this.
Recursively.
It's more of iteratively, but ठीक है. This is an iterative algorithm actually. This is not recursive. So if you write some recursive algorithm, you will use its solution, right? Where are you using its solution? To create the solution to a larger problem. Huh? Yeah? Anybody?
The first, this is the function. So if n is equal to 1, we will return x1. Otherwise, we will compare, we are assuming this function max, which compare x1 with the find max of x2
Okay,
to x1.
ठीक है,
So each time we are
ठीक है,
using by
ठीक है. Yeah. If max is greater than AI, then so you are coming. Okay, then max is AI. So where are you using this solution of this? See, when you call anything recursively, the meaning of recursive is that you get sub-problem solved, use its solution to solve the larger problem. Yeah? So, anybody else? I think I will give these examples to show that it is not recursion. Yeah?
We have also written something that I doubt is recursive.
Okay, so have you used the solution of your smaller problem to create the solution of the bigger problem? If you have done that and it is right, then it is recursive.
Like we have compared x1 and x2.
Okay, show me, doesn't
Just
matter.
written the recursive form.
Just pass it on.
I've just written the recursive form.
I'll find out.
Max m is the maximum of the.
See, just show me where you are using the solution of the recursive call. Anybody else?
Like I have compared x1 and x2. I found out the maximum of both of them. That is stored in n.
Write down the recursive algorithms are easy to write, just write. I don't want explanation. I want 2-line code. Just 2-line code. Recursive algorithms are just, for such simple problems, just 2-line. Yeah, I'll just come.
we just pass the last element, maybe the first or the last, and then we'll compare.
You're not even calling it recursively.
Oh, it's fine. Return.
No, this is iterative. You're not using the result. You have to use the solution to the smaller problem to create.
That is what I am assigning here. Whatever the largest it is.
No, see, you are returning the solution of the smaller problem. You are returning the solution of the smaller problem. You are not using the solution of the smaller problem to create a solution of the bigger problem. Okay. All right. So. So some people have written something like this, that so A is the array and I is the index, I is the index. So the description of this function, so that's another thing. Whenever you write a function, you must explain the description of the function in terms of its input parameters. That is always a good practice to do. So it computes the maximum, of elements in A from position I to n. So I am giving you wrong one first. So some people have written something like what is that? I don't know what is that exactly. They're also passing max, okay. So they are passing max. N is not required. N is same for all. N is not changing. What are you doing? I don't know. What are you doing? It's, oh, this.
Just to modify my.
Yeah.
Max is equal to, and again max will be
So something like this.
1 comma max. This I was doing.
ठीक है. I just want to give an idea, right? So just for an idea, so max is coming from somewhere. Let's assume that if AI is greater than max, then and something like this. So assume that proper value of max is coming from somewhere. Some terminating condition is there. I have just skipped all those things, but just trying to show the idea. So the idea here that is being done is that you are comparing AI with the current max. If AI is greater than current max, then you set max is equal to AI. Otherwise you call that look for maximum in I plus 1 to n. So something like this. So idea is something like this, that you are looking at it from I to n. You compare, somewhere this max is stored. Somebody has given you this max. I'll just tell you. So if AI is greater than max, then set max is equal to AI. If not, just do the same thing from here to here. So this is not recursive. This is algorithm is idea is okay, but it is still iterative. The thing which you were doing through iterations, you are doing through recursion. Not the previous result, but you need to use the result of whatever smaller problem. You have reduced a bigger problem to a smaller problem. Now you need to use its result that it has returned to create the solution of the bigger problem. Okay? And now I'll tell you the idea. I'm not putting the terminating conditions at all, just the idea. Let's say 1 to n minus 1. जितनी crisp and clear description होगी उतना ही it will be easier to write the recursion. So it computes a maximum of elements of A from 1 to n. Only two parameters. All the parameters must be used in the description. Nothing should be redundant. So what does this mean? Compute the maximum of the numbers from 1 to n minus 1. So this guy will return me the maximum index actually. This guy will return me the index of the maximum element in this 1 to n minus 1. यही बोला था ना यहाँ पे, वो अगर 1 to n करता है तो ये 1 to n minus 1 करता है, correct? And now I'll check if an is greater than a max, then return n, else return max. If this element, suppose max was pointing here, if this element is bigger than this element, then your max should change, otherwise your max should not change. Right? I have found out the maximum of the remaining elements. I know the maximum of the remaining elements. If now there's only one element which did not participate in that, if I'll just compare that left out element with the maximum, choose the maximum of these two. If the left out element is bigger, that becomes the maximum. If the left out element is smaller, then the previous max continues to be the maximum. That's what this says.
In this case, it will not stop any.
I have not put the terminating condition, I said. You can put the terminating condition. If n is equal to 1, return 1. Single element is a maximum of itself. Index we are returning. We are returning the max index. So again, you should give these problems only for practicing recursion, because recursion is a very sophisticated techniques, and once you get master over that, then life becomes very easy. It's used everywhere. So at the same time, discouraging the students to use it to solve this problem. You should not use recursion to compute the maximum of n elements or the sum of n elements. If I replace this problem of maximum with sum, what does change? What changes? I'll give you a start. What changes here? So I'm returning the element and not the index. What will change here?
Return 10 plus an.
Exactly. So instead of this, we'll just simply have return temp plus an. That's it. You don't even need temp actually. Okay? So, what have we discussed today? What is input size? When n is, so depending upon the problem, we should be careful in calling n to be an input size. Okay? Then we have seen iterative algorithms vis-a-vis recursive algorithms. Then we have seen divide and conquer technique, which leads to most of the recursive algorithms. So that's it. Any questions?
Problem that easy to program recursively. For example, tower of life, easy to program recursively.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which my observation, I'm from myself.
Huh?
Like that. Recursively is easy.
Yeah. So the question, perhaps what I understand is, so what should we suggest to the students? What should they do? Right? Whether they should write recursive algorithm programs or not. Right? That's, I think, eventually whether they should write or not. So I think, for during their degree program, they should practice both iterative and recursive. Then when they actually do it for a real product and they are really good at converting a recursive program into a iterative one, they can do it. I mean, it will depend upon the situation. Like if you want to make your code faster, you will start with recursive. If you want to make it faster, then you will have to, I mean, there are several other optimizations making a code faster, so they'll do it gradually, right?
I don't remember, but earlier in some book which we used to teach, it had the method to convert.
Yeah. Tail recursion,
not necessarily tail recursion, any recursion can be removed, and then you try to improve on that. From methods, I don't remember the book.
Yeah, and that itself shows how complicated the algorithm becomes when you convert a recursive algorithm to that. So you would want to do that only if you really want to make your code faster.
Like in tree transfer,
Right. Yeah, pre-order traversal, post-order traversal. These are very easy to write recursive algorithms for them, and if you can convert them into iterative. What is the problem? What problem do you face in writing an iterative algorithm to traverse a tree? Say binary tree. You want to traverse all its nodes. What is the problem? If you don't write a recursive algorithm, what problem do you face? We can go down to the leaf and then do what? You have to remember the parent pointer. How do you come back? How do you go to your sibling? To go to your sibling, you need to go to your parent. Okay, one step you can go back somehow, but you need to go up. So what do you do for that? Push the parent pointers into the stack. And when you want to come back, you pop it off and you have it. So recursion is essentially doing that only. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, most of the times you can remove, but I mean, my only submission is that we should know the advantages and disadvantages of recursion vis-a-vis iterative algorithms. Anything else? Okay, so we break for lunch.